the odor beneath the varnish. In the withered light of late October, the house of Byatt stood behind a gate blackened by age and soot. Not a house, not a gallery, something in between. The space, once a slaughterhouse, now hosted private exhibitions by those who dealt in rare emotional artifacts. It did not advertise. One entered only by knowing someone who had already been ruined by it. Nico hadn't been invited. He walked in under false pretenses, forged his way onto the catering list. 3 nights prior, he'd seen a sliver of something online. An unlisted video from a phone, shaky, silent. A man dancing alone in the gallery's main room. Shirt open, barefoot, surrounded by mannequins that looked startlingly human. Not posed, writhing. The caption, "He doesn't blink, not even once." It disturbed him more than it should have. That precise control. That near-pornographic intimacy. The voyeurism disguised as art. Nico had once been a dancer. Not a famous one. The kind whose thighs bruised every night from floor work. Whose fingers bled from pulling duct tape off cracked soles. Who was told his presence was too clinical, too self-aware, not enough agony. He hadn't stepped on a stage in 4 years. Inside the gallery, the air was thick with pine varnish, citrus oil, and something damp beneath, like refrigerated meat. Music oozed through the vents, half classical, half artificial. The room throbbed in slow motion. He saw him almost instantly. The man from the video, taller than he should be, clothed now, but barely. Silk shirt stuck to his skin. Something metallic laced beneath the collar like a leash tucked away. Black slacks, no shoes. He moved through the crowd without looking at anyone. As though no one deserved it. Nico's mouth dried. The man did not perform. He existed in curated devastation. He reached for a drink to busy his hands. But there were no waiters, only white-suited attendants with shaven eyebrows and pupils so wide they looked blind. One of them stepped too close and said, "Don't consume. Not here. Not yet." It was then Nico noticed the walls. Portraits. Not paintings. Not photos. They looked like real people suspended in acrylic. Limbs twisted mid-motion. Expressions contorted into pleasure or pain or something devoutly in between. Frozen in time, yet utterly alive. One figure had eyes that darted toward him. No, not possible. He turned. The man was watching him now. The dancer, still not blinking. A bell rang softly, somewhere between a call to worship and an execution chime. The crowd turned as if by signal. No announcements, no curtain. They simply moved, pressing toward the underground level. Nico followed, slow and cautious, as the marble floor grew damp underfoot. The space below was unlit except for a narrow spotlight. There, on the cold slab of concrete, a stage had been marked in salt and rust. A single white chair stood in the center. The dancer sat, back straight, breathing shallow. A red thread looped through his mouth like a bridle. His lips did not move, but his chest rose and fell with mechanical tension. The moment throbbed with anti-sexual energy. Dissection posing as intimacy. Someone in the crowd whispered, "He's going to shed." Shed? The dancer raised one hand. Not as a wave. As a knife might raise itself before it plunges. Then the other hand. He reached under his shirt and drew out a straight razor, clean and old. The crowd didn't flinch. This was part of the piece. He began shaving first his chest, then his stomach. Clean, slow, deliberate, but the blade cut deeper than necessary. Blood beaded where hair should have been. Still, he didn't flinch. Then he stood. The dancer began to move. No music. Only the wet sound of his feet against the floor. His body twisted into a private ecstasy. The motions weren't dance. Not fully. They were invasive gestures, mimicking desire and torture, repulsion and seduction. When he raised his arms overhead and turned, Nico saw the raw marks on his back. Not fresh but healed, as if this had been done before. Many times. The dancer spun again, and again, faster. The blood flinging off in arcs that caught the spotlight like stained lace. He fell to his knees. Nico couldn't breathe. Not because it was beautiful. Because it wasn't. It was intended cruelty. And Nico was aroused by it. After the performance, no one clapped. No one left. The crowd began murmuring, gently, as though drunk. A few of them approached the stage. Some reached for the dancer's blood, touched it to their lips. Others wept. Nico remained frozen, disgusted by their reverence, by his own pulse, by the sudden, visceral desire to touch the man, to pull him up, shake him, demand who taught him to sell his body like this without even the decency of metaphor. And then the dancer stood again. Blood streaked down his thighs. He looked at Nico. This time he blinked. Just once. And he smiled. Not a performance smile. Recognition. They didn't speak in the hallway. The dancer led him with 2 fingers pressed against Nico's chest, guiding him through a silent corridor into a narrow room. No windows. No furniture but a sink and a mattress without sheets. He closed the door behind them. Then he removed the shirt. Not seductively. More like an animal peeling its own skin away. Blood still welled along his ribs. The razor had kissed bone in places. Nico moved toward him. He didn't know why. He just did. But the dancer recoiled. Not in fear, but warning. He pressed a hand to Nico's chest. "You want it because it's already ruined," he whispered. "That's what excites you." Nico shook his head, mouth dry. "That's not. You think I don't feel it?" He cut in. "The ones like you don't want to save anything. You want to consume it before someone else can." "I'm not like the others," Nico whispered, almost ashamed to hear how cliché it sounded. But the man leaned in, mouth near his ear, breath hot and wet. He didn't kiss. He didn't touch. "You are exactly like them," he said. "You just do it with guilt instead of money." Nico's knees weakened. "You knew," the dancer added. "Even before you walked in. You knew what this was. What I was. You came because I reminded you of something you lost. But I'm not that thing. I'm not your failed career. I'm not your loneliness. I'm not your fantasy." He leaned back. "I'm a copy of a wound you never deserved to survive." Then he smiled again, soft, tragic, and sat down on the floor, folding into himself. Nico didn't leave. Not because he was invited to stay, but because leaving would mean admitting it had never been about art or performance or even the dancer. It had always been about himself. And the grotesque, erotic rot under all his layers of restraint.